Hey, what's up? Welcome back to Soul State. I'm Eskar, and today I'm going to talk about why having a theme on your music it's super important. In this case, we're going to talk about Atlantis. This track is interesting mainly because it tells a story. If I enjoy a song, it's mainly because it has depth. I feel like a lot of music have the potential to go one step further and actually tell a story. The main idea on this one was to portray the emotions and all the environment and all the feelings that you would get if you would live in Atlantis. Atlantis is just an idea of like a perfect civilization. Supposedly, everybody that lived there was focused on growing both spiritually and scientifically. Depth. It's hard for me to explain emotions that are not meant to be spoken. And when I'm making music, if I feel like I can go beyond basic language, I know that I'm adding depth. If I'm gonna sit down today and make a song, I need to first, before even opening the DAW, know where I want to go. Otherwise, I'm just like a bird lost, just flying in circles. So having a direction is necessary, and in this case, I did have a direction, which was Atlantis. The first idea that came to my mind was making chords that sounded like that place. The beginning of these chords are super basic, but the way it ends, it's where the magic happens. I'm not using a 7-note scale. I'm using an 8-note scale, which can help you create harmonies that you don't normally create with 7 notes. If you think about it, you can basically just loop this over and over again, and that's fine. But there's not gonna be any tension. I wanted to add tension by making this 4 bars longer and making sure that the end chords were just different. If you actually listen to this chord, it sounds horrible. So let's listen to it alone. The way I actually think about progressions aren't usually chords. Normally, if you're struggling to making your chord progressions a little bit more complex, I usually start with making a good bass progression. In this case, I actually play around with a bass to see which note would actually finish the progression better. And then after creating a better bass progression, I went into the chords again and wrote on top of that bass progression. And I just couldn't create a major, neither a minor chord on that. So I was like, you know, this is gonna have to have a more complex sounding chord. This is how the bass sounds. It's a weird choice to do that because it actually works if you just put it on the same notes. Why I did this on this song was because it gives you a pull and then push feeling. It gives you pull, push, pull, push, pull, push. And like I've said before, you need to have an intention whenever you're making music. And I wanted this. You know, this was the goal. Even the sound design has to have an intention. In this case, I wanted the bass to talk. It's a pretty vocal, growly kind of sound. Here's the sub. Pretty simple sub. Then you have a bass. This one is from my pack, yeah. There's a trick that I tend to use whenever I'm making a melody. It's easier to make a melody when you have chords. So after creating the bass line, I created chords, which again are the same from the breakdown. However, they have a different rhythm. Usually, for this genre, you make your chords have the same rhythm as your lead. And for this, I used Spire. Usually Spire is extremely good, specifically for strong mid-sounding leads. Of course, I've added layers later. I actually learned this from Zimmer. If your melody it's like a question answer, there's no way the melody is not gonna be good. This is a question. Dun 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 dun, and then you reply. There's some personality behind that. When I start to see music as some living thing, it gets a little bit easier. If you want to make your melodies way more complex, if you want to make your melodies more interesting and more fun, adding slides will usually really help. In this case, I've added a slide in the center of the note. And listen to this note without any, I mean, it's just a note, right? But when you add the slide, it makes it like some weird sound, but much more interesting. Also, I've added an automation with the channel pitch of the lead. In that case, every single note moves. I want every single note to move, whether it's going down up or up down. The idea here is to make the lead speak. Literally, you want it to speak. And when you're listening to someone talk, we're not robots. We're never talking like this. Even though this is electronic music, you want to create some sort of human aspect to your music. If you look at this melody, you can see that some notes are long and some notes are extremely short. The best example is, again, human voice. When we speak, we're not always speaking at the same length. I can actually make the melody, every note being the same length. It adds personality and it adds a sort of human characteristic. If you don't have a goal, don't add layers. In this case, I did have a goal. There was just mid frequencies on the lead, so I wanted to add a little bit more treble, a little bit more mid highs, and maybe a little bit more high mids. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers of sounds. One of them is like mid sounding. Again, mids. This is a pluck, just to add some attack. And then this one does have a lot of highs. So when you put everything together, you basically finish off the goal that you have in mind. If you think about music, you know that there's 3 parts of it. There's harmonies, rhythm, and melodies, right? Everything that you do has to have all of them. Now that you created the rhythm and the harmonies and the melodies that you wanted on your synths, you can go ahead and create your beats. Very simple kick. All I'm doing on this kick is basically adding a little bit of transients. All the background sounds here are what really helps this drop. This way I can make sure that the kick is being backed by something that is bigger than itself. And then I've added claps. Super short claps. When you put everything together, you pretty much have a full sounding drop. And of course, if you want to add energy to your song, always work with white noise. White noise is extremely good for adding energy. Without any white noise, it just ends there. It sort of drags you whenever you're playing white noise, or maintains you in some sort of tense state, which you want. If you're enjoying the video, make sure to check out the description for all of my socials. Let's just keep on rolling. This background drop claps are something that have changed the way I create music. What I would do before is just create a kick and a clap, and that's it. Let's listen to it without all the background claps. You see how empty it sounds? You're not only helping the kick, but you're also creating ambience. I actually learned this technique from dubstep producers. Whenever they're creating a song, they put either a sustained note in the back, just playing, or they put an ARP and then they put like rights and stuff, and that makes your drop have depth. There's one techniques that I usually do to make my drop sound bigger. Usually the way I achieve that is by creating contrast, a very dry sound, and then afterwards adding a very super wet sound. That's a way you can create contrast. In this case, what I did was play around with the stereo image, basically automate the stereo image on the master and make it mono before the drop hits. And as soon as the drop hits, it would explode back. Here's the stereo separation, and before the drop hits, let's actually play it so you guys can hear. A little bit laggy. Another thing that I did to create a sort of bigger drop was automating the master volume. All you want to focus on is the end product. Doesn't matter how you get to the end product. It's all about the end product, really. For example, I'm using downlifters here that are from Cymatics. Some people might be like, yo, don't use those downlifters because they're overused. If you're making music for normal people, they don't really care. They just care about the end result. If it sounds good, do it. That's it. Don't think about it twice. Make the music that you wish you could listen to. I usually just go for what's faster. Whenever I'm making music, what I want to do is create music. The last thing I want to do is go into making sure that the EQ is completely doing surgical things into my sounds. You do have some sort of limited time per day for creative ideas. There's times where you're making music and you just get so annoyed that you're not making anything good that you just stop. For that, I suggest that you sit down and just flow. Don't go crazy into the EQ and try to do some surgery into your sounds or anything like that. That long explanation, it's why I only did this little change on the claps. Just to make it simpler for me to just keep on creating. It's already white, and what I did was basically make it wider by using this. It really helps the kick. Normally, you don't really care about how a sound sounds by itself. You're making a song, not a sound. So I do pay a lot of attention to sound design, but when I'm basically mixing it into the song, I'm just focusing on making it fit. For example, like, what do I do to a sub? I make it mono. I add a little bit of distortion to it to add some harmonics, because harmonics are the most important things in music. I basically get rid of some of the highs, or actually all of the highs and the mids. Add a clip distortion because I love clipping. And basically just an EQ, and that's pretty much what I do for, let's say, a sub. This synth, I add upward compression, I add a lot of distortion actually. An EQ to get rid of the frequencies that you do not want, because the sub, of course, is taking space here. And just adding a little bit of boost, no more than 3 decibels. And then some stereo shaping to make it wider. Normally my processing involves distortion. It's just so good. And whenever I want to create a sound that sounds fuller, better, in your face kind of sound, I add distortion, or I actually add harmonics. That's what I want to do. Let's actually play this bass without any EQ, without any distortion either. What we're basically doing here is we're adding some tube distortion, and besides that, I'm doing this parametric EQ, which is something that I do on all of my future house songs. It's basically create a peak type of band, put it up by like 9 decibels, which is a lot. This is how the bass line sounds without any crazy EQ. Like I've said before, there has to be a goal. Don't add this to your drums or to your sounds just because you saw it on a video. I do this because I felt like everything else was lacking these frequencies. Because at the end of the day, when you're making a song that sounds full, it means that it has a lot of harmonics, a lot of frequencies. What's empty? What's not being used out there? Oh, mids. Okay, let's add mids to the bass. Normally, if you watch a YouTuber, they would tell you, do not do this. Don't boost, just cut, you know. But sometimes break the rules and make stuff that might make your sound stand out. This is actually part of my signature sound. I've noticed that boosting some of the mids on basses, whether they have the same sound design or not, would add a little bit of touch. It's like adding salt, you know? You create a recipe and nobody else adds salt to it, so you go ahead and add salt. Because when people taste it, they're gonna know that you made it because it has salt on it. You add little details, in this case EQ. When people listen to it, they can get a sense that it's yours. You want to tell the story? For that, I've added a vocal that's a very shamanic vocal. And it makes sense because for Atlantis, they were very advanced societies. And that included spiritual stuff. So I found a vocal from Kashmir. No effects. I cut some of the parts and I made my own melody with it. And now that it's ended up sounding like this. It sounds horrible. So I went into Nectar. I've added some pitch correction because it really needed it. I actually boosted some of the frequencies with this Oxford inflator. I added a CLA vocals. I added a lot of plugins there to make it fit with everything else. If you ever go into YouTube and look into like shamanic ceremonies, you can see that they're playing drums and someone's singing. That's basically what I wanted to do. So let's find the drums that sound shamanic, and usually shamans play the same note over and over again, like, you know. For that, I'm using shakers. They're not very shamanic, but the rhythm is. I help it out with cinematic drums, which are not really shamanic, but the idea is. Now, I actually added another thing to create more ambience to this song, which also sound like some sort of vocal. This is actually a pluck that has a lot of reverb, and if it goes with the bass, you can hear how much it helps the melody. Something that I didn't quite understand till a couple of years ago was that I do not have to have a melody playing all the time. This melody comes in and then comes out. It comes in and then comes out. If you want people to remember your music, simplify it. Make stuff that you can hum to. You can hum to this very easily. I also tend to add real sounds. I've added a fireplace because usually when you're in a spiritual ceremony or something like that, elements come into play. And in this case, fire is just the sound of fire, literally. And it's super subtle, but it does add to the song. And it makes the song sound not only more mystical, but it also makes you feel like you're getting warmed up. Subconsciously maybe, but it is there. If you really want to make good music, think about all the good music that you've ever listened to. What do they make you feel? Most of the times you're going to answer like, oh, they make me feel happy, they make me feel sad. But really think about it. The songs that you like the most are the ones that can make you feel something that you cannot explain. They take you to another place. I can just sit down and listen to my favorite music and just get teletransported to somewhere else. That's basically what all of these aspects are trying to do. It's not supposed to be a subjective thing. There's actually a very interesting thing from Gurdjieff. He was a Russian mastermind, and he said that real art only existed when it was objective, not subjective. Real art, it's not supposed to be based on someone's experience. It just is art. You don't want to create something that makes you sad. You really want to create something that you know it's going to make everyone sad. What I really focus on when I'm making a song, it's on my mix. When everything, all the melodies, all the drums, everything has been done, I go into my mix sound and I make sure that, first of all, everything is being leveled. Nothing really has the same volume. Nothing. If two sounds sound good volume-wise without any EQ, when you add EQ, they're gonna sound great. So I suggest you start all your mixing without any EQ. That's what I do. And after that, when my mix is good, I go into my master. I break a lot of rules here. Once I have my mix, in this case, I used an ozone. Yeah, I'm not sure which song I used, but I used matching EQ on my master. With matching EQ, you basically open an EQ, you play a song using a reference here, and then you move the curve of your own song to match the other one. This way I can make sure that I have the standard of frequencies, what everyone else is releasing. As you can see, this EQ, it basically just added a little bit of highs. I didn't know it needed highs, but when I do this kind of thing, it moves you a little bit forward into the right direction, which you might not be able to see. Like I've said, there's 3 ways you can achieve things: either by someone telling you, either by you learning to do something, or by accident. In this case, someone told me, and it was a computer. After that, I add an EQ again. I boosted the lows. Then I open another EQ, which get rid of anything below 28 hertz. Usually, big PA systems will sound extremely muddy when you have those frequencies. So I just got rid of them. After that, I used an ozone imager. Everything is mono below 110. I also boosted some of the mids, but it was like such a small boost. It's just 5.1%. It's clipping, but you can still see that the bass, the kick are all there. And the only things that go all the way here are usually reverb and stuff like that. I'm more of a feeling kind of guy. I don't care if this is red, and I don't care if this is breaking some rules. This served its purpose. And I boosted some of the highs again, just making it wider. Sausage fatter 1%, and then we got fruity balance, which I automated. My master, there's really not that big of a change. The only change, it's everything is being controlled into one little box. Without anything, it sounds like this. You get a pretty acceptable result. Again, I'm Eskar. If you want to connect with me, all my socials are Eskar. Instagram's Eskar, Facebook's Eskar, TikTok's Eskar. I have a YouTube channel. If you want to go check it out, I teach some music production stuff there as well. Also, if you want to check out my sample packs, preset packs, they're all Eskar, and they're going to be on the description, I guess, or something around here. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully, you're super inspired to go and make music. Great music, not just music. And hopefully, you guys make the best music you've ever made after watching this. I'll see you guys later on another Soul State Music.